Assalamu alaikum everyone. Please let me know if you guys can hear me. Okay, so as you guys probably judged by the title of the stream, we're streaming bearings, okay, and I will be solving past paper questions. Walaikum salam, Abdullah. I am good. How are you? And we're not going to be discussing the concepts because I already have a video on that, so you guys can recall the concept, or if you want to cover the concept, you can cover the concept through that video. In this stream, we will be solving past paper questions. So I have this worksheet, by the way. This contains past paper questions. I have two worksheets, in fact, okay. This contains past paper questions from IGCSE and O levels, 0580 and 4024. Okay, you can download this worksheet. The good thing about this worksheet is I've highlighted with next to each and every single question as to what is the difficulty level, easy, medium, hard. Okay. So this is what we're going to be doing today. There's another worksheet, worksheet number 1, okay, which also you guys can download. And not only that, in fact, there's this worksheet called lines and angles, which you can also download and practice it, because that's what bearings is all about. It's all about not all about angles. Yes, there's a lot of further trigonometry also, but you got to make sure that your concept of angles is on point if you want to be able to do well in bearings. Okay. Walaikum salam, everyone. I am good, alhamdulillah. How are you guys doing? I hope you guys are preparing for the exams, and I hope everything is under control. All right. Anyway, so let's start. Sarah had an issue with vectors. Like, could you kindly show or tell how to find the scale factor in vectors? Scale factor in vectors? Scale factor? Isn't that in enlargement? Anyway, so I'm going to be focusing on what we're doing right now. So if you have any questions other than this topic, please hold on to them. You can message me on Instagram. I will try to respond to every single one of you. I know some messages just fall through the cracks. I don't end up seeing them. Okay, but feel free to drop in a reminder. Okay. All right. So here is what we're gonna do. So let's get straight to it. So as I said, that I've highlighted the difficulty levels: easy, medium, hard. So nothing is in control. So we're gonna be starting with the easier ones, of course. Okay. And initially, I will be breaking down every single question so that you guys understand the concept, and then we're just gonna approach the question head on. Okay. Now, bearings. So a couple of things to know about bearings. I'll write it down. Number 1 is that it's always measured from the north. Okay, always measured from the north. All right, that's the very first thing. I'm sure you guys have heard this over and over again, and the only problem is how to solve the questions, which is why, like I said, we're only going to be concentrating on the past paper questions. Okay, so it's always measured from the north. Number 2 is that it's always measured in a clockwise direction. Now, this is something particularly important, especially for AdMath students, because in AdMath we're used to we're used to finding out the angles in an anti-clockwise direction, and then here all of a sudden we have to do it in clockwise direction. So if you've done AdMath, just be particularly careful about the second point. Always measured in a clockwise direction. Okay, and number 3 is that it's always given in 3 digits. Okay, at least 3 digits. All right, could be more, could be less. Okay. Yeah, check the description. Thank you for mentioning that. You can download it from there. Okay. All right. Now, here's the thing. Bearing is basically trying to find out that if, let's say, the question says that the bearing of B from A is 59 degrees. So that means if someone's starting from A and they wish to reach the point B, they should steer in a direction of 59 degrees in a clockwise direction from the north. Okay. So from the north, if you steer in a clockwise direction of 59 degrees, eventually you'll end up at B. Obviously, that depends on how far B is from the point A. Okay, but that's what bearing is all about, basically. It's trying to find out what direction to go in so that we start at one point and we get to the other. And by the way, for those of you who haven't liked the stream, please like the stream. I'd strongly appreciate it. And yeah, now coming back. So this angle right here is 59 degrees. And the question is asking you to find out the bearing of A from B. Okay, now before I give you guys a shortcut, first let's do it the longer way. Okay, and then I'll give you guys what I'll tell you guys what the shortcut is. Now, finding out the bearing of B from A from B basically means that B is our starting point. Okay, so it's always a good idea to first mark what the starting point is. Okay, B is a starting point, and we want to find out that in what angle should we steer in from B, starting from B, so that we end up at A. Okay. Now, the second you have multiple bearings, okay, always try and watch out for alternating angles. Okay, could be alternating angles, could be corresponding angles, but just keep your eyes and ears open for alternating angles. As you can see over here, hopefully, that we have a pair of alternating angles. And why do we have a pair of alternating angles? I'm not assuming that these two lines are parallel, okay, just because they look parallel. I can tell for a fact that these lines are parallel. That's because this is a north and this is a north. All right, north are two vertical lines, so they have to be parallel. Okay, so what does that tell me? That tells me that this angle right here is going to be 59 degrees. Okay, now how do we work out the angle that we want? So if we start from here and we go till here, that's going to be 180 degrees, and then we do 59 plus 180 or 180 plus 59 to find the complete angle. Okay, so here's what we're doing: 180 plus 59, which is equal to 239 degrees. So in this worksheet, I have written the correct answers right next to the question. Okay, so you don't have to open the marking scheme or anything. Okay, so that's it. That's the answer. Now, there is a shortcut. Okay, the shortcut is that, and this, by the way, this concept is called reverse bearing. Okay, and the way this works is, this is how it works. If the bearing of, let's write this down, if the bearing of A from B is theta, okay, if the bearing of A from B is theta, then the bearing of now here's part A, B from A will be theta plus 180, okay, if theta is greater than 180 degrees. All right, or in part B, B from A will be theta minus 180 degrees. If theta is less than 180, you add 180. Sorry, my bad. If theta is less than 180, you add 180. Okay, and if theta is greater than 180, then you subtract 180. Okay, now, so hopefully that's clear. Now in this question, if you take a look at it, you can see that the bearing of B from A is 59 degrees, which is less than 180. So if you want to find out the opposite bearing, okay, you can do it through the way that we've done it over here, that you can mark north and then figure it out, trying to identify alternating angles and all of that. Okay, but an easier way would be to basically just either add 180 or subtract 180. If the given value is less than 180, you add 180. If the given value is more than 180, you subtract 180. Okay, that's how this works. Okay, now yeah, theta is any angle value basically. Okay, it's just something we call angle. You know how unknowns are usually referred to as x, unknown angles are referred to as theta. Yes, it's a funny word, I know, but yeah, that's how it works. Okay, so that was one green question. Here's another question highlighted in green because it's easy. Okay, let's see what this says. And this, by the way, is a past paper question. Walaikum salam. It's from February March. February March is a session that's only held in India. Let's see what it says. It says, on the map, the positions of the towns L, M, and N form an equilateral triangle. The bearing of, okay, so if I were you, I'd highlight or underline the word equilateral triangle. Okay, and it says the bearing of M from L is 103 degrees. So this angle that you're looking at, M from L, is 103 degrees. Okay, and then it says work out the bearing of L from N. Okay, what does it say? It's saying work out the bearing of L from N. Now how do we do that? Now first things first, if it's an equilateral triangle, that tells us one thing, and that is every single angle on the triangle is going to be 60 degrees. Why is that? That's because it's an equilateral triangle. That means sum is 180 degrees, which means 180. We're going to split it three ways. So 180 divided by 3 is 60 degrees. Okay. Now the bearing of L from N. Now what you can do is, here's a little, not going to say a secret or anything, but here's a little trick which will make your life a whole lot easier. Instead of working out the bearing of L from N, how about we work out the bearing of N from L, because that's a whole lot easier. N from L means that L becomes your starting point. Okay, and we're going to make a north at L, which we don't have to do that because it's already drawn. And then you keep on going in a clockwise direction till you reach the line that's connecting L and N. Okay, now as far as L from N from L goes, it's going to be equal to 103 plus 60, which is equal to 163 degrees. Now here's a question for you guys. If I want to find out the bearing of L from N, which is what you're actually supposed to do, yeah, of course you will be able to watch these streams later. Okay, every single stream is stored, so we don't have to worry about that. What are we going to do? Are we going to add 180 or are we going to subtract 180? Add 180. Why do you say that, Abdullah? Okay, thank you, Aditya. I appreciate that. Okay, so you add 180, and that's because the given bearing is less than 180. So if you add 180, what do you get? You get 343 degrees. Now, let me tell you that you could have done it the other way also. Okay, so don't think that this is the only way that it's supposed to be done. You could have done it the other way also. Okay, how is that? Let me show you. So we make a north at N. Okay, since that is what our starting point. Okay, and one thing that you will have to do over here is that you'll have to extend the given north. Okay, and you will have to find out what this angle is. Okay, now you can work out this angle very easily by simply subtracting 103 and 63, 103 and 60, sorry, not 63. So you get this angle as 17 degrees. Okay, now if this angle is 17 degrees, pay close attention, then this angle right here also turns out to be 17 degrees. Now the angle that you want, basically you want the bearing of N, of L from N. So you start from the north that we have made and you keep on going in a clockwise direction, and this is the point where you stop. So this angle is going to be 360. The entire circle is going to be 360 minus 17. So what you get is you get 343 degrees. Okay. Okay, now I'm reading your messages. Are you going to streams? Are you going to do streams of all topics in O level? Obviously selective ones. I'll ask on my Instagram. Okay, we'll do a poll or something. And then I did a poll, I think yesterday, and bearings. It was pretty close between bearings and circle theorems, but since bearings came out on top, that's why we're streaming bearings. But I will be streaming circle theorems also, okay, which basically means angle properties of circles. Okay, so here's another question. Let's solve this. It says the bearing of B from A is 1 of 5. So here is 1 of 5. Okay, and you have to find out the bearing of A from B. Okay, A from B basically means that you have to find out this angle. Okay, now if you know your alternating and corresponding angles well, and also adjacent angles, you would know that this angle is basically the supplementary angle to 105. Okay, so we would do 180 minus 105, which turns out to be 75. Is it? Yeah, 75. So all you got to do is 360 minus 75, which is equal to 285. Or you could simply do 105 plus 180, which also gives you 285. There you go. Sir, why do we study bearings other than the fact that we need marks? Well, that's pretty much why we study bearings. The second method was what I was taught in school. Both are correct. Yep, both are correct. Okay. All right. So enough easy questions. Now let's do a slightly more difficult question. Okay. The ones that I've highlighted, not red. I think that would be unfair. But yeah, let's start with the ones that I've highlighted yellow. Sir, I'll write a message here. Is it possible if you can make a video for us on everyday mathematics, like sir on vectors? Okay, vectors is in everyday mathematics. Okay, let's see how things play out. Okay, let's focus on what we're doing. Okay, so it says here the diagram shows a field A, B, C, D. The bearing of B from A is 140 degrees. So you can see that the bearing of B from A is 140 degrees. C is due east of B. So C right here is due east of B. That means it's rightwards. Okay. And D is due north of C. Okay. So D is due north of C. That means this is a horizontal line, the line CB, and the line CD is a vertical line. Okay. Find the bearing of D from B. Okay, find the bearing of D from B, and always have a look at the marks, so that will give you an idea as to the amount of working that's required. Okay, It's a 2-mark question, so that means not a lot of working, but yeah, still some amount of working is required. So find the bearing of D from B. Okay, now one thing to note over here is that if you want to find out the bearing of D from B, normally you would expect the 2 points to be joined, okay? But here, that's not exactly the case. The 2 points aren't joined, so that's okay, nothing to worry about. We can join them, okay? Nothing to worry about. Okay, next thing is that if you want to find out the bearing of D from B, it's kind of obvious that B is going to be your starting point, okay? So we'll make a north at B, and if you think about it, this is the angle that we want, okay? Now we can't find out this angle right away, so that means we gotta come up with a method which allows us to find this angle. Now notice how the question said that C is due east of B. Okay, this is not just a coincidence why the question has mentioned this. It's trying to tell you something. It's trying to tell you that this entire angle that you're looking at is actually a 90-degree angle, okay? And this is gonna come in handy later on, okay? So how about we find out this angle? Once we have this angle, then what we can do is, since we know very well that the entire angle is 90 degrees, we can subtract it from 90, okay? So how do we find out this angle? Notice how the question said that the C is due north of D and also B is due east of, C is due east of B. That means this angle right here will also be a 90-degree angle, okay? Now, what do we have? We have the opposite length, okay, and what else do we have? We have the adjacent length. So what trigonometric ratio can we use over here? We can use tan. So let's call this x. So tan x equals to 450 over 350. So let's see what x is equal to. Yep, tan ratio, that's correct. So tan inverse of 450 divided by 350 is... Okay, so my calculator is in radian mode, so I should warn you guys to make sure to reset your calculator before you start. Okay, regardless of whether you're an advanced student or not, just make sure to reset your calculator, okay? Okay. So we have 52.125, so we're going to lock it at 52.1 degrees, okay? So if this is 52.1, all right, then we need to find out this angle. How do we find out this angle? This angle, for this angle, we do 90 minus 52.1, which is equal to 37.9 degrees. Okay, and we're not going to write it as 37.9. We're going to write it as 037.9. Sir, please differentiation 2 at maths, as I have many doubts. Don't worry about it. I'm going to try and do as many streams as possible before your midterms. Okay, so yeah. Anyway, so that's that. That was part A. Okay, just so you guys know, in these questions, I've only taken out the bearing parts, okay? So I've let go, like for example here you can see that we just have part E, okay? That's because I've sort of erased the other parts, okay? We could also find angle D since it's alternate. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, this is only intermediate. You're right. Okay. Here's another intermediate level question, if that's what you want to call it. Okay, and this is from May-June 2022, and this is from IGCSE, by the way, paper 4, variant 1. Okay, so it says here C is due east of A. Okay, C is due east of A, so that means this line is no ordinary line, it's a horizontal line. Okay, find the bearing of D from C. Okay, what does that mean? That means that at C we gotta have a north. Okay, and we need to find out this angle. Okay, now as far as I can tell, there is no direct way of finding out this angle. Okay, so that means, and let's look at the marks. It's a 2-mark question. Okay, so that means there is some amount of working required. Okay, so what I can tell so far is that if, let's say, we don't just make a north, if we make the entire compass, okay, so here's something that we can tell. So we have 90, 90, and then another 90, okay, and then this angle. Okay, so if somehow, let's not worry about how, but if somehow we're able to find out this angle, then that's job done. Okay, and yes, I can see someone has already mentioned cosine rule. That's exactly what we're gonna do. Okay, so this is angle C. Okay, so that's what we're after. Cos C equals to, now remember, the included sides are the sides that you add, cosine rule. Okay, so 14 square plus 12 square, and the side that's completely opposite, you subtract that. Okay, so minus 9 squared over 2 into 14 into 12. Okay, so let's work this out. Cos C equals to 14 squared plus 12 squared minus 9 squared divided by 2 into 14 into... I would strongly... I would really appreciate if one of you could just work this out alongside. So in case I end up making a calculation error, you guys can point it out. So cos C becomes 37 over 48, and then to find C we take cos inverse of the answer, and that gives us 39.57, so we call it 39.6. okay, now notice how we have this angle now. This is the only angle that we wanted, 39.6. Okay, just a minute. I think the stream is stuck slightly. Should be fine now. Okay, I hope it's fine now. Well, I can see it's green, so I'm assuming it's fine now. Okay, so to answer that, why is it only 4 marks? You're right. Cosine rule is at least 4 marks. I completely agree with that. But the reason why it's only 2 marks over here, because like I mentioned earlier, I have skipped a few parts. Okay, so the question had already made us work out this angle in the previous parts. Okay, so yeah, you're right. Sorry about that. Okay, so we have 39.6, and now here's what we do: 270 plus 39.6, and let's see, what is that equal to? 270 plus 39.6, which is equal to 309.6. Okay, so the stream should be all right now. Okay, all right, now. Okay, thank God. Okay, so now let's do a few difficult questions. What do you guys say? Let's try and solve a slightly more complex question. Okay, so here's a question. Let's see where this is from. This is from IGCSE October-November 2020, paper 4, variant 1. Okay, and as you can see, I've highlighted it red, which means it's a difficult question. Okay, all right, let's see what this says. It says calculate angle CBD and show that it rounds to 106.0. So CBD is this angle. Okay, and show that it rounds to 106.0, correct to one decimal place. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We are going to consider triangle CBD, and we're just looking at triangle CBD. We're not looking at anything else. Okay, and we're looking for cos B. So cos B equals to 192 squared plus 168 squared minus 287.9 squared divided by 2 into 192 into 168. Okay, please remember that the opposite side is the side that you subtract. The other two sides are the sides that you add. Okay, as far as cosine rule is concerned, if you're finding out the angle. Okay, so this is going to be, well, although I can see what the answer is, but just to be on the safe side, let's work it out. 192 squared plus 168 squared minus 287.9 squared over 2 into 192, close the bracket, into 168. Okay, so I'm looking at some value. Let's take the cos inverse of it. And then we have 106.0, which we should have to begin with. So do these type of questions come in O-level maths? Yeah, of course they come in O-level maths here. Okay, read the title. It says IGCSE/O-level. Okay, all right, so that's part A, 4 marks, 4 easy marks to be honest. Then it says the bearing of D from B is 038. Find the bearing of C from B. Okay, so remember what we have to do. We have to find the bearing of C from B. I'll write it down over here so that we don't lose track of what we want. It's the bearing of C from B. And also, the question has given you the bearing of D from B, which is 38 degrees. And it's marked it over here also. Okay. All right. And let's see what the question is asking for. The question is asking us to find the bearing of C from B. Okay, let's find the bearing of C from B. Okay, so technically this is the angle that we want. Okay, now let's see how we can find out this angle. Okay, any suggestions, by the way? Now notice how, if you look at the question, notice how the question mentioned that A is due. Okay, no, that is something it mentions later on. So basically this angle we worked out to be 106.0. Okay, now if I can somehow find out what this angle is, I should be able to find out the bearing of C from B. Okay, so let's see if we can work out this angle. So 106.0 minus 38 is equal to, let's see, 106 minus 38, so that's equal to 68. Okay, so this angle is equal to 68. Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to do 360 minus 68. Let's see, what do we get? 360 minus 68, so we get 292 degrees. Okay, not 360 minus 106. Okay, so this is something I should probably emphasize on, so let's do it again. So bear in mind that you've just worked out this angle. Okay, and the angle that I'm highlighting in red turned out to be 106.0. Okay, now the angle that we're concerned with is this angle. Okay, and this angle has to be 106.0 minus 38, which is equal to 68 degrees. 106 minus 38, which is equal to 68 degrees. Okay, now what you want is this angle. So what are you going to do? You're going to do 360 minus 68, which is equal to 292 degrees. And you can see that's what the answer is. 292 degrees. Okay. Okay. I think there's something wrong with the stream again. Okay, it should be fine now and shouldn't happen again, because I just realized I was connected to the wrong internet. Okay. Now here's part 3. Let's see what part 3 says. Part 3 says A is due east of B. Okay. And you're supposed to calculate the bearing of D from A. Okay. A is due east of B, and you're supposed to calculate the bearing of D from A. Okay. Let's see how we can do that. It's the bearing of D from A. Okay, so I'll just write it over here so that again we don't lose track. D from A. So we make a north at A. Okay. And not just north, in fact, it's always a good idea to make the entire compass like I've made over here. So here's 90, here's 90, and here's 90. Okay. Now what you want is basically this angle. Right, this is the angle that you want. Okay. Now, how do we find out this angle? No, wait, the question is asking you to find the bearing of D from A. Okay, you don't want this angle. Sorry, my bad. You actually want this angle. Alright, now any suggestions how to find out this angle? And this, by the way, is a 5-mark question. Okay, so that means it requires a lot of work. Okay. So, in fact, I think it's best that I solve this. Okay, not that I have any doubts of your capabilities, but I think we'll save a lot of time that way. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this question and bring it over here so that we have a view of everything. Okay. Now the question says A is due east of B. Okay, so one thing that we can find out immediately is actually this angle. Okay, because it's a 90-degree angle, and this is going to be 90 minus 38. 90 minus 38, which is equal to what? Which is equal to 52 degrees. Okay, now with the help of this, you know what we can do? We can actually find out what this angle is. Okay, and how will this angle help? I don't know, but let's find out. So we can find out this angle using sine rule. Okay, so let's call this, in fact, it's A already. So sine A over 168 equals to sine 52 over 205.8. Okay, so let's work out this angle and see if it helps. So we have 1 sine 52, close the bracket, divide by 205.8 into 168, and then we take the sine inverse of the answer. So we have 40.036. So let's call it 40.0. Okay, so this angle is 40 degrees. Okay, now I honestly don't know why this is a 5-mark question. Okay, it should have been a 3 or maximum 4-mark question. But anyway, if it's a 5-mark question, so be it. Okay, now since this is the angle that you want, okay, now it's pretty much the home stretch. You can find out this angle by simply subtracting it from 90. Okay, so 90 minus 40 is equals to 50 degrees. Okay, and this is the 90 that I'm talking about. Now you want this angle, so you have 3 90s, 90, 90, and another 90 over here, and then another 40 degrees. Okay, so you can either do 270 plus 40, which is equal to 310 degrees, or you could do 360 minus 50 degrees, which is also equal to 310 degrees. And that is the final answer. Now, as I said, I honestly don't know why this is a 5-mark question. Okay, so 5 easy marks. I think the examiner is trying to make sure that you get good marks. Okay. All right, so that was one hard question. In fact, I think we've solved 2 hard questions now. No, we've only solved 1 hard question. Okay, now I would prefer to solve a question from GCE, that is O level. So here's one question. Sir, they have a question earlier and they mixed it with loci. Yeah, so you'll find bearings mixed with loci, you'll find bearings mixed with further trigonometry, clearly. Okay. All right, so here's another question. Let's solve this. It says the diagram, and this, by the way, is from O level, as I mentioned, October, November 2017, paper 2, variant 1. Okay. So it says here the diagram shows the position of 3 towns A, B, and C. B is due north of A, so keep looking at the diagram simultaneously. Okay, and the bearing of C from A is 220 degrees. Okay, now it's a good idea to always extend the north. Okay, although this line is not representing the north, but you might need it later. Okay, and then it says find the bearing of A from C. So there's an easier way to this question. You already have the bearing of C from A, and you're asked to find the bearing of A from C. So if the given bearing is greater than 180, what do? You subtract 180 from the given bearing. So that's what you do. 220 minus 180, which is equal to 40 degrees, but please don't forget to write it as 040. Okay, now in case you're wondering why I extended this, I'll tell you. So this angle we can work out by doing 180 minus 220 minus 180. So that's equal to 40 degrees. Okay, and then if you make a north at C, which you will have to if you're doing it this way, then you'll realize that you have a pair of alternating angles. Okay, and this angle is what? This angle is also 40 degrees. And that's it. That's your answer. 040. Sir, now will you take regular live sessions? I'll try to. I can't take them regularly, but yeah, alternate days maybe. Okay, so here's part B, and then we'll do part C. Part B says show that BC equals to 59.4, correct to 3 significant figures. Okay, so we can work out this angle how? By subtracting 220 from 360. So 360 minus 220, what do we get? We get 140 degrees. And what do we do when you have 2 sides and an included angle? Well, you should know this very well by now, and that is we do cosine rules. So BC squared equals square root, actually no, BC, let's make BC the subject to begin with, equals square root of 38 squared plus 25 squared minus 2 into 38 into 25 into cos 140. Okay, so let's work this out. Let's see what do we get. So BC equals to square root. Well, the answer is right here, so let's just save some time and write it directly. Okay. Sir, graphs of functions ke sessions. Graphs of functions isn't really on my list, to be honest, but let's see if I can take some time out. Okay. So are these sessions for midterm revision? Well, whatever you want to take them as. If you want to use them to revise midterms or CIEs, it's up to you. Okay, they're not specific for, they're basically math revision. Okay, so whatever exam you have, you can use it for that. Okay. All right, so that's part B. Now comes part C, which is the reason why I've included this question. It says calculate the bearing of C from B. Okay, C from B. C from B. Okay, so we make a north at B, and it's always a good idea to don't just make a north. Okay, make all the angles. Okay. Now let's see what it is that we've worked out so far. C from B. Okay, so that means we need to find out this angle. So if we can somehow find out what this angle is, where I'm putting these two question marks, we can simply add it to 180. Okay. So in order to find out this angle, we have pretty much everything we need. We've already worked out this length, 59.4. So now we can use sine rule and find out. Actually, we can also use cosine rule, but let's use sine rule. And we can find out angle B. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. Sine B. Let's do this with a different color. Sine B over the length that's opposite of B, that's 38, equals to the angle that we have, 140, over the length opposite of it, which is 59.4. Let's work this out, see what we get. How do you know what line C is and what line B is? By looking at the diagram, that's how you know. Okay, I just realized that I forgot to put sine here. Yeah, so sine 140 divided by 59.4 into 38, sine inverse of the answer. So we have the value of B, which is equal to 24.28. So we'll lock it at 24.3. Okay, so this angle is, let me zoom in. Okay, so this angle is 24.3. Now that's it. We have everything we need in order to find out the bearing. All we got to do is 180 plus 24.3, and there you go, plus 180. If you work this out, you get 204.28 degrees. So we call it 204.3 degrees. Okay, there you go. That's it. That's your answer. And all the working that I've done over here, please make sure that when you guys are doing it in an exam, that you do it on the space that's provided. Okay, so yeah. Sir, A levels के sequences के questions कब करवाएंगे? When the time comes. Okay, it's best that you guys focus right now on what we're doing. Okay, I can tell you that the next stream will be on angle properties of circles. Okay, so I can tell you that I haven't really planned too much in advance. Okay, but as far as AS is concerned, I will do a stream on circular measure, inshallah. Okay, let's do another question from, and this, by the way, was also a medium difficulty level question. So let's do a question that I've highlighted red. Okay, let's do this question. And this is, okay, doesn't say how many marks, but I'm pretty sure it's around 4 or 5 marks. Okay. Is this the first live session? No, not the first live session. Okay. All right. Here's part B. Let's see what it says. I mean, part B of this question, as I mentioned earlier, I have excluded all the non-bearing related parts. Okay. So this question says that B is due east of A. So B is due east of A. You can see that. Okay. And D is due south of A. So you can see that D is due south of A, which is why we have a 90-degree angle. And we'll not just have 90 here, we'll have a 90-degree angle over here also. Okay. Now let's see what else the question says. The bearing of B is on a bearing of 35 degrees from D. So B is on a bearing of 35 degrees from D. So that means this angle that you're looking at is actually 35 degrees. Okay, not according to me, according to the question. Okay. Then it says calculate AD. Okay, so actually it's this part why I've included this question. Okay, so we can find out AD. It's a no-brainer, honestly. Okay, so AD, if you think about it, is actually the adjacent length, and this length is actually the opposite length. Okay, so we have to use tan 35 equals to opposite, which is 285, upon adjacent, which is AD. So AD equals to, let's see what we get. I don't teach in Lahore, but I'm based in Karachi. 25 divided by tan 35, so you have 407.0 meters. Okay, I don't know why I've written degrees over here, so it's 407. Okay, then we have part 2, which, by the way, is a 5-mark question. But again, don't be carried away that just because it's 5 marks does not necessarily, as you saw earlier, does not necessarily mean that it requires a lot of working. Okay, but yeah, it does require a decent amount of working. Calculate the bearing of C from D. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to erase everything. Okay, erase this, not everything actually, and this, and let's see what the question is saying. Calculate the bearing of C from D. So I'll write that down over here, C from D. Okay, and then C from D. Yeah. So we make a north at D, which we don't have to. It's already drawn. Okay. And the angle that we want is this angle. Okay. So if somehow, don't know how yet, but if somehow we're able to find out this angle, then all we got to do is add 35 to it. Okay, and this is what you guys should do before you actually start solving the question. Okay, do a bit of brainstorming and see what it is that you want, with the help of which you will be able to find the final answer, or something that will help you get to the final answer. Okay, so once you do that, it makes it easier and you become more confident also about your solution. Okay, and you know exactly what it is that you're looking for, honestly. Okay, now this is the angle that I want. Okay, so the next obvious thing is to try and see if in this triangle we have enough information to do that. Okay, but if you think about it, we don't have enough information to find out any angle for that matter. Okay, we have two sides, and when you have two sides, unless of course if it's a 90-degree triangle, then two sides are enough for us to find out the third side. Okay, or any angle for that matter, we can use sine, cos, tan. But this DBC is not a 90-degree triangle. Okay, so that means we either need an angle or we need a side. And then if you put some thought into it, if you look at the triangle which I'm now highlighting in red, you will see that we have enough information to actually find out the length dB. Why is that? Because dB, as far as the red triangle is concerned, is the hypotenuse length, and 285 is the opposite length. Now you may be wondering, why am I not using AD 407.0 and using Pythagoras theorem? Now there's nothing wrong with that if that's how you want to do it, okay? But I'm just more comfortable using the original set of values, okay? So we can use this to find BD, okay? And this is something that I would suggest you guys to do in the exam also, because if you figured out AD incorrectly, that means now BD is going to be incorrect, and that means everything else that follows will also be incorrect, okay? All right, so here's what we're doing. We're not taking the help of 407.0. We're only using the opposite and hypotenuse. So sine 35, sine is what we're going to be using because we have opposite and we need the hypotenuse, equals to 285 over hypotenuse, let's just call it HYP, hype, okay? So the hypotenuse side is equals to 285 over sine 35. Let's work this out. In fact, you know what? I'm going to change this from hype to BD. Okay, 285 divided by sine 35. What do we have? We have 496.88. So BD is 496.88. Now, since this is not the final answer, I am going to use it as it is. Okay. Now that we have 496.88, although, let me show you guys something. Okay, I haven't written it over here, but in the marking scheme, there was a range of acceptable answers. Okay, so, but to be on the safe side, just take two more significant figures if it's not the final answer, and if you're going to be using it in order to get to the final answer. Okay. Now, where were we? Now we have enough information to find out angle D. Okay, and we're going to do just that. So cos D equals to, now remember, it's the side that's opposite that you subtract, the other two sides you add. Okay, so you do 496.88 squared plus 750 squared minus 425 squared, and the same two sides that you've added are the two sides that you multiply by 2. 496.88 and 750. Okay, sir, is there any schedule of your live streams? Okay, I'm afraid there is not. At the moment, there is no schedule. Okay, but yes, I will be streaming angle properties of circles next. Okay, and most likely I'll be doing that on Thursday to kal hai. I'll be doing that on Saturday maybe. So 496.88, close the bracket, open another bracket, 750. Okay, so I'm looking at some value, and if I take the cos inverse of that value, I get the angle D, which is 32.47. So we lock it at 32.5 degrees. Okay, now don't get carried away. This is not your final answer. Okay, but this is exactly what you need. Sorry about that. But this is exactly what you need in order to get to the final answer. Okay, so I'm just going to erase this, and I'm going to erase this and also this. So now we have this angle, which is 32.5. Okay, 30, just a second, 32.5 degrees. Okay, now here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do 35 plus 32.5, and what do you get? You get 67.5, and then make sure to write it as 067.5. Okay, because that was quite a lengthy question. Now here's what I will do. I will, this working that I've done, I will put it next to the question so that when you guys are having a look at this document, you know exactly what I've done. Okay. Let me answer your questions now. Any relevant questions? Okay, no schedule. I've already mentioned that. So O levels and IGCSE more or less are the same as far as math is concerned. Okay, what's easier in O levels is difficult in IGCSE. What's easier in IGCSE is difficult in O levels. Okay. When will the stream end? Yeah, actually, I was thinking the same thing. When to end the stream? So I think let's just do one more question and call it a day. Yeah, so let's just do one more question and that should be it. Okay, so here is another question also from GCE, that is O level. Okay. So is there any way to get extra marks somehow in maths? Okay, no, there isn't, sadly. So let's see what it says. It says the diagram shows the position of three villages, P, Q, and R. R is due west of P. So R is due west of P. That means it's on the left-hand side, which we can see that. And Q is on a bearing of 140 degrees. Okay, and you know what? If you can see that R is due west of P now, immediately you should work out this angle, which is 90 degrees. And the benefit of that is that you can now work out this angle. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. Sir, please write general formula for sine and cosine. Okay. So basically sine A upon A, which is equal to sine B upon B, which is equal to sine C upon C. This is the general formula for sine. For cos, this is what it looks like. A square equals to B square plus C square minus 2B into C into cos A. Okay, but I will suggest to watch the stream because I've taught what to do when you're asked to find just the angle. Okay, yeah, there you go. All right, so as I was saying, that you can now work out this angle, which means 360 minus 90 minus 140, which is equal to 130 degrees. Okay, now it's asking you to calculate angle PRQ, and we have enough information to do that. Now we're not going to be able to work out this angle directly, but what we can do is, since we have a length and an angle opposite to it, and we have another length, but not the angle opposite to it. So that means we can use sine rule to find out angle Q. Okay, and you may be wondering why we're working out angle Q and not R, because that's what the question is asking for. That's because we don't have the length that's opposite of R. And once we have this angle, given that we also have another angle, we can add the two and subtract it from 180. Okay, so sine Q over 3.8 equals to sine 130 over 7.5. All right, let's work this out. So sine 130 divided by 7.5 into 3.8, sine inverse of the answer. So now you're looking at, oh, wait a minute. I think I've done something wrong. Oh yeah, there's another final answer. 22.8 degrees. So this is angle Q. Okay. Now it's not the angle that you're looking for. You're looking for angle PRQ. So 180 minus 130 minus 22.8. Okay, so if you do that, plus 130, 180 minus answer, you get 27.16, so which we can round off to 26.2 degrees. Okay, I know I've written 27.1, but in the marking scheme, there must have been an acceptable range, and 27.2 should have been inside that acceptable range. Okay. All right. Then it says work out the bearing of R from Q. R from Q. Okay, R from Q. That means that this is the angle that you want. Now there's an easier way to do this, and that is, instead of working out the bearing of R from Q, how about we work out the bearing of Q from R? Okay, because we have just enough information to do that. Okay, we have this angle which we worked out to be 27.1. Okay, so if you work out the bearing of Q from R, so that's equal to 27.1 degrees. Okay, and then if you want, and not just 27.1, sorry, 27.1 plus 90, because totally forgot this angle. So which is equal to what? It's best that I use a calculator. Plus 90. So that's 117.16, which means 117.2 degrees. Okay. So here's what I've done. I'm going to write it over here. Now, how to find out the opposite bearing? How to find out the opposite bearing? What do we do? Do I add 180 here or do I subtract 180? Sir, is there any way to avoid silly mistakes while attempting paper? Just be conscious of it, okay? There is no magical formula or method through which you can avoid silly mistakes. Just be self-aware. If you realize that you make silly errors, then just watch out for them, okay? Check as you go along. That's the best thing that I can say. Silly mistakes can be avoided with an open mind. What do you mean by that, open mind? Okay, plus 180. Yeah, that's what you do. You add 180, okay, because the given bearing is less than 180, okay, and when you do that, you get 297.16, which then becomes 297.2, okay. All right, so that's about it, and I will encourage you guys to solve the remaining questions. You should be able to do them, inshallah. Okay, and yeah, there's another worksheet also, which, and on the side of which I've also written the answers. Okay, now although this worksheet says the difficulty level is easy, but it's actually not. It's a bit of both, easy, medium, and difficult. Okay, so yeah, that's it. So I'm gonna stop here, and best of luck to you guys. I hope this stream helped. Will this be uploaded to the YouTube channel? Yes, this will be uploaded to the YouTube channel. Okay, so how many years past paper should we solve to prepare for the good for the upcoming majors? 5 years, at least 5 years. Okay, and as anyone would tell you, that it's not the quantity that matters, it's the quality. And it's actually true. It is the quality that matters and not the quantity. So where I can get the worksheet, check the description, and I will also re-upload it with the ones that I've solved. Okay, so yeah, that's about it. I'll stop here. See you guys inshallah very soon, hopefully Friday, okay, but yeah, keep checking my Insta story. If I do announce a live stream, I'll let you guys know there. Okay, so take care, boys and girls. Allah Hafiz. Yes, reverse bearings will get you full marks. Okay,